Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing our polychroma kiosk stands in Rhino as kind of a model tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do this in small object inches. So that should already be set as your default template if you followed the introductory tutorials, the woodblock and the Rhino introduction for PC and Mac. So coming into our design space here, we've got our top, front, right, all of those pertinent views there, and our perspective here. I'm going to go ahead and do this starting with the top view. It might be easier actually to do it from the front view, but just for the sake of working the way we typically do with layouts, we'll do it from a top view. Okay, so I'm going to draw a rectangle. So the way we draw a rectangle is we type the word rectangle, R-E-C-T for rectangle, enter. And I'm going to click somewhere to start. I'll just do it right about here and start to move out. And you can see I have ortho on. We want to leave ortho on and all of your snaps on. So the dimension for this is going to be the overall dimension of the largest piece, which is 24 inches by a quarter inch or 3/4 inch thick. So I'm going to start with my length of 24, enter, and then do my thickness, which is 0.75, enter. Okay, and that gives me my top piece. And then I'm going to do the side pieces and the shelf. So the side pieces will be another rectangle. So I can hit enter to bring up the same command. And I click and I start to drag out. And as I do, I'm going to go... Actually, hold on. We're going to go this way, because otherwise I'll draw it flipped. So we're going to go length, or left to right, is 3/4 of an inch for the thickness of the material. Enter, and then the height is 2 inches, which is the actually let's do -2, so it'll go the other way. -2 inches, which is its front to back. And then I'm going to draw another rectangle from here. So I'm using my snaps, rectangle, snap to there, and I'm starting to draw out. And left to right, it's going to be 3/4 of an inch, 3/4, enter, and then 14 inches, -14, sorry, to go that way. And that's going to be for our side piece. Next, we're going to do the rectangle for the shelf itself. So let's hit enter, brings up the same rectangle. And I'm going to go this way as I'm starting to drag out. Left to right is 23, but -23 because we're going to go the opposite way. And the depth is 16. And I don't know what I did wrong, but I'll do it again. Rectangle. Click here. Start to drag out. And I'll hit left to right, -23. Enter. And then 16. Oh, -16. -16. Enter. So that gives me the shelf size. Okay, so we've got this rectangle, which is our shelf. We've got this side piece here, which is going to be our side, which will give us our kind of like the divider. And it's going to be the exact same on both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror this whole thing onto the other side. So I'm going to type mirror. And I'm going to find my midpoint right here, and I'm going to drag all the way over to here with this mirror line and click. So let me do that again. So the mirror command, you can type the word mirror, select the objects you want to mirror, which are the 3 rectangles on this side. You hit enter to execute, and then you're going to draw a line in the middle that you want it to flip over. So I'm going to find my midpoint, which of course I've got my snap on, or if you're PC, you've got a snap down here. Midpoint, and draw the line this way. Enter. But it's still wrong because it's got to flip the other way. So let's mirror it one more time. Mirror, enter. I've already selected the objects, so they're there, highlighted. And then I'm going to draw my plane from that midpoint on this rectangle. You don't want to do it on the midpoint on this rectangle because that's not in the middle. It's pushed over. So midpoint on this object. Draw straight up, and where it says copy, uncheck that. That will be on the command line if you've got a PC, and then click. And by checking that, it deleted the original one. Otherwise, you would have to do it afterwards. Okay, so now we've got all of our shapes that we need in order to make the object. So I'm going to switch to perspective view, and I'm going to click on the rectangle in the middle, and I'm going to type extrude curve, enter, and I'm going to start to bring it up, and it's going to go up 72 inches. 72, enter. Okay, now I'm going to right click, and I'm going to change this to shaded just so you can see what we're doing a little better. And if you've got a PC, you click on the down arrow next to the window that you're in, and you change the view there. Then let's go ahead and extrude this up 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. This one and this one. We can do them all at the same time because, well, we could do this one as well. 3/4, enter. Okay. And then we're going to do these two at the same height. And these two are also at the same height. So I'm selecting So I'm selecting both of these and both of these. Now I'm going to extrude those curves up 48 inches. Okay. And then I'm going to move both of these up by clicking on this. I can just click on this up button here, and I'm actually going to move it up 40 inches, but that will put it at 40 3/4 of an inch. So I'm the height of it at 40 3/4 of an inch. So I actually want to subtract 3/4 of an inch from 40, so 39 1/4 inch. 39.25. Enter. And then click to get out. And it's pretty much that simple to do our kiosk. So let me delete the line work that I've got here. I don't need anymore. And another thing you can do to delete objects is if you go from right to left when you select, you're making the bounding box, it'll select anything it touches, no matter what plane it's on. If you go from left to right, it'll only select objects that it completely encircles, which should only be those lines on the bottom because everything else is longer than that box I made. Let me do that again. So that comes in handy for things like deleting extra lines. Okay, so the next thing we can do is we could add hinges to it if we wanted to, and that is actually not that complicated. We could just go to our top view again. We draw a rectangle with a dimension of 1.75 by 3 inches, and then we mirror that on the other side. Oh, it's sticky though. I gotta take copy off, or turn copy back on. I'm sorry. Okay, and then we can extrude these up, switch perspective so we can see. And we'll do the thickness of the metal, which will give it 0.25, which it's really not that thick. It's thinner metal, but, you know, close enough. Actually, no, let's go with 1/8 inch. Extrude up 1/8, 1/8 inch. That looks better. And then we'll just draw that circle for the hinge on this face by going to a front view. I'll select those items first so I can see where they're at. Go to a front view. And then draw a circle right in that midpoint. And we'll make it a little bit bigger than the object. While we're in this view, we might as well flip this up because it's going to be flipped up. So I'm going to rotate that. So let's go RO for rotate, enter. Select the object to rotate by clicking on it, hit enter. Select the center of rotation, and I'll do that right here. And then I'm going to drag this out, and with ortho on, it'll go at a 90-degree angle. So click like that. So let me do that again. Rotate, specify my pivot point right there. Come out to draw a little circle. So that's just making sure that the circle is going in the right direction. Click on it. And then because I have ortho on, or if you hit shift, it'll make it a 90-degree angle. And then you click to execute the command. I'll click again in the space just to get out of the command and select all the objects, go back to perspective. I should be right where I was before, which I am. And I'll just delete this line for now and extrude this section from here to there. Okay. And even though in reality the hinges do have a little bit of a circular end on them, in order to make it nice and clean when I'm doing the drawing, because I don't want this to overlap with the wood, I'm going to erase off this excess on the outside here. So I'm just going to move this, M for move, click on it, move it right to there. And then I'm going to move this whole thing up a little bit. And really, this is just for visualization. It's not for any kind of measurement. So that's why I'm just kind of doing it freely without thinking too much about being precise. And then I'm going to Boolean union these two things together, which will make it one piece. So click on both of them, shift click to add to the selection, and either type Boolean union or click on Boolean union. And that should make it all one piece. And then what I can do is I can trim as the cutting object would be this. Click on that, and then I'm going to trim out that section. Okay. So that gives me kind of a radius thing going on inside there. But, enter, I'm done. But I want to also make sure that this piece is all one piece. And if we look at it, we can see that inside of there, this piece is hollow. So sometimes we can cap it, but this time it does not have a flat bottom on it. So we have to build a side onto this and a bottom onto it to Boolean union it to the other piece because it's open. Solids will only match up with solids. So let's make this thing a solid. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click on that. So those are my snap points, and that draws a surface. Let me do that again, sorry. So we can do surface from 3 or 4 points. If I do 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got that. And then if I join this to this by either typing join or using the puzzle pieces, you have all one piece. And I can then cap this object to make it all one piece. Because you can cap something that has one end open, but not something with two ends. So that gives me that as one piece. Then I can move it from this corner back to that corner. And I should be able to Boolean union it together. Oops. Delete the circle and use the Boolean union tool. And then I want to clean up the faces, so I'm going to use the merge all faces command. See that? And it got rid of those extra lines. So that's nice. Clean geometry. It looks like a hinge. It's not exactly a hinge, but we're just using it for visualization at this point. All right, so then we've got one more hinge to do. It's a smaller hinge. It's 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 inch hinge. And we can either make this smaller or we can start with a new one. But I think I'm just going to scale this down. So I can do that by going copy, typing copy, enter, selecting the object, clicking and dragging to make a new piece, hitting enter to get out, and then I can use the scale tool. So I'm going to go to the front view and type scale, enter. Click on the object you want to scale, and then I'm going to drag this line out to about right here, and that's just how quickly it's going to scale. The longer the line, the slower it scales. And so now after I click and I move my cursor back, it goes smaller and smaller. I know that I want it to be about 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to move it to where it's about 3/4 of an inch, which 3/4 of an inch is 1, 2, 3 of these. Okay? So now I'm going to go back to perspective. And I've got my smaller one. Okay, now we want to move those hinges into the right position. And we also still need to make the wood supports underneath here. So turns out I made this thing wrong, right? So I'm going to actually copy this. I'm going to show you a trick. I did this one wrong, so I'm going to copy this, Command C or Control C, and then I'm just going to undo Command Z or Control Z until everything is all separate. Okay. Then I actually want to rotate this flat, so I'm actually just going to cheat and use the gumball. Let me show you what I just did. So if you don't have the gumball turned on, it's up here or down on your line if you've got a PC. If I click on one of these dimensions, it'll flip it because I have ortho on, or if you hit shift, it will flip it. So now let me go move this, click on this, and move it to there. And then I'll just union this whole thing together. Yeah, this needs to be a little bit more that way. Union it together. And then to get rid of the bottom, draw a line. This is still actually quicker than having to draw both of them. So I would have had to rotate things anyway in order to get the other one scaled. So I drew a line from there to there, and now I'm going to extrude that. Oh, it's going the wrong direction. So I can hit D or click on the direction. And then I can click and start to draw this way. And if you don't have ortho on, hit shift and it should make a straight line. And then I can pull this all the way through. Oh, my zoom is acting up a little bit. If your zoom is acting weird, you can always hit Z, enter, draw box, and then now I'm zoomed around that one object. So it makes things a little cleaner. And then click and drag this way so it's overlapping. And I'm going to split. So type split, enter this object, click on the object, enter with this surface, enter. So I made that a cutting blade, delete that out, click on this, delete it. That's open, but this is all one piece. So I should be able to cap. So I typed cap, enter, and selected the object. And let's clean up those faces by merge all faces. Okay. So that gives us our flat hinge, and then we can go Command V or Control V to paste back in the other one that we made that's not flat. And I just realized that this was supposed to be flat by remembering that it actually goes on the side between here and here, so it's flat. Okay, so let me rotate back around, and I'm going to flip this one more time by clicking the red axis that way. So I want it to be this way. And again, ortho being on, it'll rotate depending on which axis you pick. Okay. In this one, we do need to rotate it as well. So let me rotate it this way, and then I'm going to rotate it on the red axis. Let me do it all the way back around this way, because we're going to do this side first, and then we'll do the other side all at once. Let's go back and make the supports that go underneath here. Okay, so back to a top view, and we just have to make a 20-inch by 2-inch support that goes under the shelf, and then a 2-inch support that goes under the other side of the shelf. So rectangle, we're going to draw the rectangle out, and I'm actually going to draw it right where it goes. So I'm going to click right here, and then I'm going to go a distance of negative 20, enter, and that's by 2, enter. Okay. And then I'm going to switch to perspective, extrude the curve by 0.75 for the thickness of the wood. And then delete that curve. So let me just do this. Move, enter. I'm going to move it from this point to that point. Go back to a top view. And then I'm going to just use these to kind of line it up in the middle. And then go back to perspective and move it from here to the perpendicular. Okay. Sometimes it takes a couple of times to figure out how to move things, and that's normal, but because you have to move with accuracy, not intuitively. Okay. So now I've got that support. Now I just need one more because I'm going to mirror the other ones. And this one, I'm going to draw a rectangle. 1.5 maybe, was it? 1.5 by 2 inches. Okay. It's just a chunk of wood. We didn't really measure it much, so I don't know. Each one of them is kind of different. So then extrude this up, 0.75, enter. And we're going to move that, enter, from right here to right there. Oh, I grabbed the curve, so let me just delete that. Grab this again, move enter, grab it right there on the corner, and then I'm going to move it to that corner. And then I'm going to switch to the top view, and we've got this tucked a little bit back so you can't really see it from straight on, but it still will support perspective. Oh, and yeah, it's also rotated, so should have done that first, but we're going to have to rotate it, move it from this point to that point, and then push it back in space a little bit. Okay. And we might as well just do the hinges at the same time. So I'm going to move this hinge on the center point here, midpoint, to spot on the edge here, and it's not grabbing. So I'm going to turn the near point on over here, and it should grab there. And I'm going to go ahead and copy. And as you see, when I copy, it's going the wrong way. So now I got to go to a front view. And that should copy it in alignment. Okay, right there. And I'm really just kind of guesstimating where it goes in space, so don't worry too much about it if you feel like you're not 100% accurate. Okay, so now this piece will go underneath here, it actually attaches from here to there so that it pushes this off as it goes down and it doesn't hit. So let me copy that from that back point right there. And then I'm going to put it right there. And that's not where it's going to stay. Go to a top view. And then I'll click on it, move it over, copy. And then here, when I'm copying, I don't want to click on it because there's all kinds of other things I might accidentally click on. So I'll click way up here into the void, click, and start to move to get that shape. So now when I switch back to perspective, we've got the two hinges on the bottom, we've got the hinges on the sides, we've got the stopper there, and we've got the piece underneath for support. It's starting to look pretty accurate. Now all we've got to do is take these parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 6 of these parts, and we want to mirror them onto the other side. So back up to a top view, type in mirror. Wonder what would happen. Oops. Type in mirror, go from midpoint over, and then we're going to do it again. So let's select this, shift, holding down shift, highlight that, click on that, and then we're going to mirror it again. And remember, we want the midpoint on this object, the rectangle in the middle there. Click, turn off copy, and draw straight down past it, and there we go. So now when I switch back to perspective, did everything end up in its right spot? Looks like it to me. Okay, and it might take you a couple more times than it takes me to do things like that, but just remember, if you grab the midpoint in the right spot and don't accidentally grab it the wrong dimension of like one of these objects or these objects, it should flip perfectly in space. Okay, so that's it for making this object. The next step is to make your own materials and apply the materials to the object. Okay? Thank you very much.